I've got my bolster here, but if you've got, plenty of cushions, etc. So you can sit your pelvis up on quite a nice bit of support. Okay, and just coming to fold the legs simply. So, you can, if you're high enough, it should feel more natural than just to roll forward. So I'm really on the front of my sit bones there. It's the bolsters really allowing me to drop the legs. But if that doesn't work, just tuck things underneath your knees as well. Yeah. Or remember, you could be up here and you could just cross the ankles. So, whatever works for you, what feels good. And you can move between the two. Lovely. So I just begin in dropping our weight down into the pelvis. Hands resting on your thighs and knees. And as you stroke down from the hips towards the knees, just checking in that the knees are feeling okay. We want to look out for any little niggles anywhere that need attending to. So drop your gaze for a moment. Indeed, if you can, let the eyes close. And in that way, we can access with a lot more ease the ability to quietly scan through the body in your mind's eye. So you're just noticing what you're holding on to, maybe around the neck, the shoulders, the lower back, the hips. Any little sensations of holding or gripping, can you just encourage a little more release? So you can soften in areas of holding and tension. And at the same time, you're just quietly noticing the flow of your breath. And you can invite the breath as always through the nostrils, but maybe for the next 5 exhalations or so, just breathing out through your mouth, just like you're softly blowing out a candle. It's almost like a silent poo sound. And that will begin to help extend and lengthen the out breath with relative ease. And then the inhalation happens in response. So you don't have to worry about remembering to breathe in or controlling that in any way. Right? You just let the in-breath happen and then exhaling. Let that travel down and through you and begin to root you into the earth beneath. So from the waistline down, the weight is gathering in the pelvis, in the legs. You're starting to feel the weight of the bones here. Beautiful weighted pelvis, heavy. And maybe during the inhalations, you can feel a little sense of lift out of the waistline, above baby, moving up through the chest, the neck, and out through the crown of your head. So by rooting ourselves into the earth, we really can bloom and lengthen through the upper spine. And then there's much more space for your baby. So this dropping and lifting and discovering more and more length within the spine allows more space. So one of the issues, especially as we move into the latter months of pregnancy, is that through tiredness we can maybe collapse a little in the upper body, and this means that all this space here disappears, and we can all get a bit crunched in here, and that it just doesn't feel great. So thinking about how we hold ourselves, how we stand, how we sit, how you literally carry your baby through the day can be incredibly helpful to how you feel. We're just going to allow from here our hands to rest on the lower belly to further connect you to the breath. So if you're happy to let the eyes remain closed, so just drop the gaze, just appreciate and feel a gentle inflation, expansion that comes as you breathe in. And as you exhale, gathering, or maybe just a sense of deflating beneath your hands. So you can just feel the belly wanting to expand more with the inhalation, the inhalation, and a little exhale and movement away from you. So baby is there very much beneath your hands, your touch. You can feel how the breath is moving. So you really are breathing well for you both, for you and baby. With every breath you take, not only is oxygen traveling into every cell of your body, but also to your baby's private placenta. So you really are breathing well for you. And if you wish, you could just allow your hands to the muscle rub of the belly, saying hello to the baby this morning. And it's all appreciation of the baby's presence and the journey ahead. And the stroking down towards the knees. So if you're happy to, just allow the right ear to drop towards the right shoulder. So just begin to notice any sensations through that left hand side and into the left shoulder arm. If it feels too much the head just there in space, you can always bring up your right hand for the head to rest into. See how it feels. And then I'm just going to open up the palm of that left hand and just take the arm behind me and reach through the thumb, the fingers. And you should feel quite a lot of opening of channels from the ear to the shoulder, the wrist. Take a few breaths there. At any point you can return to breathing out through your mouth if that feels helpful. And then just bring the left hand back, palm down on your thigh. And now just drop the chin more towards the right hand side of the chest. So you're dropping your gaze, and the right hand could just come and rest on the back of the head. You're not pulling on the head, you're just letting a little extra weight come from the hand, and maybe becoming more conscious then of that left hand side, that section of the neck. Again, you're just spending a few breaths there to allow a little softening or release. Wonderful. And as when you wish, the right hand will float down, the head floats back up. You can find our way back to center, give a little wriggle through the shoulders, the neck, and we're just going to allow the left ear to fall to the left shoulder. A lot of tension gathers around the neck, the shoulders. And then if you need more support, just bring up the left hand. You're going to open up the right arm. Reach away, and then just taking that behind you a little more, and to see if you can feel and breathe in. Go a little further back. Again, just as long as you can breathe into that. So when you wish to release, you just allow the right hand to come back to the right thigh. And then we just allow your gaze to drop down towards that left hip. The left hand comes up. Same thing. Right? That's it. Beautiful. So now you can focus a little bit more on that right hand section of the neck. You'll be feeling sensations that might run into the upper spine or down the arm. Again, can you just breathe and soften into that? And as and when you wish to. Let the left hand float down. Leave the head as it is at the moment, nice and heavy. And then just roll your head towards the center. Leave it there for a few moments. You can just link the fingers, cup the hands at the back of the skull, relax the elbows. And then as you inhale, pushing the head slightly into your hands, breathe the elbows open. And on the exhale, a little rounding through the upper body as you bring your elbows close. So a couple more times, inhaling and exhaling to close. Inhaling to open, lift Exhaling. As you come back to closure, leave the head heavy, let the hands come and rest back on your thighs. And then we'll just let the head float up and then find that point of rest again. Link your fingers. Take the palms away from you and reaching. Bring them up. And then what we're going to do, right, is begin to stir. Right? So it's just like you're stirring a little circular-like shape. And a sense of moving around that thoracic upper spine. Nice and relaxed with the head. Everything just moving together. You could change the direction. Again, how's the breath? We just, every now and again, we just remember to maybe focus a little more on the exhale. And appreciate the inhalation of those. And just slowing that movement down. Bringing it back. You probably feel a desire to release the legs. At some point, we could just support and come onto the hands behind you, maybe fingertips or palms, and just extend the heels away. Toes. So we're flexing of the feet, right? And then we could draw circles outwardly to begin, just feeling the external rotation all the way up into your hips, and then internally, rolling inwardly with your toes. And you can really enjoy drawing that circle with your toes. Wonderful. And just tap out the legs. Lovely. So let's swing the knees together. And bring ourselves into all fours initially, because it's always a beautiful place to come and just have a nice wriggle. Right? So remembering what you mentioned earlier, the importance of not collapsing into the back of that waistline. So, when you've got a baby here, when your belly's full of baby, it's very easy to collapse into that. So just feel like you're hugging baby a little closer to the back of you. So you're just kicking in those supportive muscles a little more. And then from here, we're going to begin by just letting the head drop, wonderfully heavy, and just walking into your hands, having a look at the hands. Find a place where you feel you can both plant through the palms, but wrap the upper arms back to keep your shoulder blades away from the ears. And the head just hanging into that space will allow you to release a little further than it. With all the thoughts that run through the mind and any concerns or worries you may have, we get very tense in here. It's a key place for holding on. You might just want to trace a little figure of 8. If you do, play with that in each direction. Excellent, lovely. And you could also just draw the chin in a little closer to your sternum. And a heavy, heavy head, and then just relax it. So probably, you can't see anything from the outside. It's a really small internal movement, The chin just comes in a little closer and relaxes back to where it is. Lovely. Just further ways to release and let go. So looking back past baby, just check your knees are roughly under your hips. And then we can just allow the head to float up till you're gazing at space between your hands, and just a sense of being drawn back and forth through the spine. So tail towards the back of the room, crown of head, you're being drawn towards the front. And as you exhale, you can begin to gather into the pelvic floor, up through the layers, so the tail begins to tuck. So we start here in the sacral bone, scooping under, and that helps us then to hug baby a little closer to spine. Moving into that lumbar curvature, into the lower ribs. And we just see if we can slow the process a little initially. And then there's that drawing in of your chin. You might just want to be there for another breath or so, just to allow the whole back of you to begin to lengthen, soften. And then as you exhale, begin to think about a squirrel's tail. So you're going to start to imagine from here, the tailbone lifting, lifting, lifting,
You're rolling vertebrae by vertebrae, moving through the lumbar into the lower rib cage. So again, in that way, we're keeping a sense of control. We're not just collapsing into it, overarching. The overarching here or collapsing through the waistline often comes when we're a little hypermobile in the lower back, the neck, and we just use that to find the shape, right? So that's why when we try and isolate it and think tail, 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 we feel that tilting of the pelvis. We move through the waistline and they get much more interested in what's happening around the lower ribs. Vertebrae by vertebrae, sense of the chest opening and just bringing the gaze forward. So the movement might not feel as huge as if we just really push into that lower back, yeah? But it will be more truthful and supportive in the long run. Beautiful. So just continue a few more times, yeah, in your own time, just following your own breath, right? So what you're resisting is any tendency to rely, right, on the freedom in your lower back, right? To just push into these two shapes, yeah? But rather feel that you're moving along each and every vertebra, from bottom to top and from top to bottom. Wonderful. So really feeling into those lower rib cage. So we just pass softly through the waistline. There's not an overemphasis there. Wonderful. Okay. Beautiful. And then you can always just touch your toes, open the knees slightly wider. Just give a little rock back and forth. So just checking in with the range of movement for you, whether you're comfortable to sit on the feet. If you are, that's all well and good. If you need more padding, tuck in a pillow, etc. And just look forward. Maybe you want to have lots of length here as you think of moving into childlike pose because you're full of baby. So it might be a moment, now since you're getting bigger, to have a little something to rest your chest on and your forehead. So a little more space for baby. You don't have to go as low. And again, if you have a birth form, it's a moment to rest the upper body on the birth form. Yeah, that's it. Lovely. So while you're in your child, you can, for one thing, just enjoy baby's weight. Falling away from the spine a little and how that's a release for the back. And then you can focus as you breathe, a sense of the back of the waist softening and the lower back widening. You could maybe picture a little more space appearing between your shoulder blades. You can feel the breath more along the back of you, but also into the sides of you, into the side ribs. So as you inhale, that's where you can feel the expansion in the back and side body. And as you exhale, you're just aware of a little deflation as the breath moves out. So whenever we take a pause within our practice, that's a moment for you to tune back into your breath and remembering that your breath really is your best friend within labor. So whatever's going on around you, if you can find a safe place to rest, where you can draw your gaze inwardly, you can feel protected from what's going on, but you're not looking outwardly, right? Then you can focus back in, and particularly if you feel a little ruffled or things are going on around you that are disturbing you, that's the moment to anchor yourself through the out-breath. Right? So you just wait for an out-breath to begin and you follow it in your mind's eye. You let it wash down and through you. You imagine it sending roots into the earth. You trust in the earth being there to hold and support you. And when the inhalation happens, you let that flow back in and have a sense that each in-breath is coming to soften and nurture you just in the way that you need in that moment. It will give you whatever you need, whether that's some strength, softening, relief.
When you're ready, as you inhale, just begin to shift your weight onto the knees, back onto your hands, bring the knees a little closer again. Once more, you could just do a couple of little cat-cows, just rolling through your spine more mindfully. Watching out for any habits there may be about just pushing into a shape. Rather this lovely rolling through, vertebrae by vertebrae. And then you could tuck your toes under.
So we'll just do a little bit of playful puppy dog. So coming up, but with knees well folded and just for a moment. Yeah. So you can come in and out of it, maybe 3 or 4 times, but literally, I'll just show you. I'm breathing in, I'm really feeling through the hands, through the base of the toes. It's the hands and the feet that are going to move me. The knees come up and it's my tail that lifts me. So I'm going to keep those knees folded and then reach back, like so, and then literally coming back down. So it's just for the length of the breath, really. You can have a little stretch out, a little wriggle in between, whatever you feel drawn to do. Right? And then when you're ready again, right, you can begin to explore. So remember, when you're lifting the tail and reaching back through the hands, the arms, you're allowing the whole uterus to relax forward away from the spine. So it really helps the muscles attaching to your uterus, your womb, and around the waistline into the spine. We want to keep an equality between them. Because often what happens through posture, etc., to keep lifting that tail, feel the sit bones moving away from one another, little reaching back through the arms, exactly. Just come down and rest. So each time you come into it, let it feel really fresh just for a moment. And again, of course, the other option, if you're not particularly comfortable with the dog now, is to start doing double the walls. So if you had a piece of furniture or a table like me, it's just coming here. This can feel really nice. Yeah? You can use a wall as well, but actually if you've got a table or a piece of furniture where you get this sort of sensation, it can feel wonderful. Right? And again, just another opportunity to let the pelvis release a little from the spine. But again, what we're doing is not collapsing into that. So you keep the lower back lengthening away, tailbone pointing back towards the back wall, planting down through the feet. Yeah? And every now and again, just soften your knees. You can always then just step 1 foot forward. And so we just give a nice leg stretch. Step 1 foot back and then the other. Simple leg stretch. And let's come up into standing for a wee while. Why not? Yay! Lovely. So we'll just start by standing on our 2 feet. And literally just walking on the spot to waken up the soles of the feet. Huh? Feel the weight dropping into the heels, along the outer edge. Find the base of that big toe. Right? So remembering that as well as planting down through the feet, right? From behind, soft knees, so thinking of the back of your knees softening and opening and then planting down through the feet. There's also then a sense of the thigh muscles gathering and the thigh bone, a sense of drawing back up into the hips. So the legs have this 2-way movement, and just like the feet do as well, dropping and lifting, just like our spine does, dropping and lifting. So, the body is constantly responding to the pull of gravity beneath, and from that then there's a rebound up through the body. So again, just finding that, in our pregnant state is really wonderful because it helps create more space in the body, right? So just keep having a little play with that softening of the knees, then you can push into the feet, right?
Feel the lift through the inner arches and ankles. Right? Feel that lift up into your hip sockets, the pelvic floor, a little gathering. A little awakening around the belly. So if you're feeling quite heavy now, you can always link your fingers as well and just bring that under baby. Just to take a little weight off that pubic bone and make it feel nice. So feel your feet and your legs becoming more and more active and awake. Yeah? So they then support the pelvis. So the pelvis is almost like a bridge between the two legs. Right? And one of the key things again that you're looking out for is this area for you, that you don't just allow the weight to pull you forward, right? That you keep coming a little bit more into the back of you. And then you can release that lower back, drop the tailbone, drop the heels, draw the energy up into the pelvic floor, the whole core, which will help support your baby's weight. And then you can begin to feel a little freer in the upper body. So we just give the shoulders a simple roll, the idea of up, back, down, and forwards with the shoulder blades. So again, these wonderful shoulder blades that have the ability to move huge range of movements. But we want to initiate all the little muscles to help with that, to wake them up. Okay. So again, there's a lot of weight here on the front of us. It keeps drawing everything forward. We do a lot here, we're thinking here. So, again, we can tend to collapse, and that also means that we lose space. So, always just coming back to thinking about how you hold and carry yourself and your baby through the day is helpful for you both. Okay, so let's just begin. Feet roughly underneath your hips, and you could just have a little shifting of weight from one side to the other. So one knee will need to flex a little as you just send that weight back and forth. So finding our balance, in Tadasana, coming to stand on 2 feet is all about balance, right? So you could take the feet slightly wider and just find that little figure of 8. So remember, we just want to free up the pelvis. So again, I'm flexing my knees, because if the legs are ramrod straight, it's very hard to move that pelvis. But if you soften the knees, the pelvis all of a sudden can move a lot freer. Right? So, this is something you want to keep playing with, just finding a sense of being able to soften and relax through the pelvic area, that there isn't any over gripping, say through the sacroiliacus, etc. But also then how to, in a healthy way, draw up through the feet, the inner leg, into that pelvic floor, into all the other core muscles, in a more even way that then helps you to feel supported and strong, stable. So stability and mobility. So just giving the tail a little whack. And then for the figure of 8, remember you're going to lead with that left hip, so that moves across to the right, and then the right hip comes forward and back to the left. So you want to keep those knees nice and soft to allow that pelvis more movement. And this is really nice, when we're needing to keep balance and care for the pelvis, when things are going on there, when it has been a bit achy. This is just a nice internal rotation. It's really nice for the knees as well. If we lead with the right hip, in that way, then you're going to that's an external rotation, and it gets a bit funny through the knees as well. So that's why we lead with the left hip. And then if you wish, you can always just come into the tail and just give that a little wriggle. Again, not a huge movement for you. You could just play at imagining the tail is just drawing this circle. So that could be quite a small little circle. Again, in the other direction. Lovely. So keep moving between playing with mobility and softening and relaxing that pelvis to let go of any tendency to grip in certain areas. And then refinding our stability. Right? So let's just kind of stand 2 feet together. Hands in prayer for a moment. Rest your gaze towards the floor. As you exhale, be a lot more aware of the back of you. You can even allow the back of the head to just feel it's being drawn slightly further back, and then sliding down, touching the back of your heart, back of the waist, soft,
The lower back then, the sacral bone free to lengthen, tail to drop. Washing down through your legs, the heels sink into the earth. And then there's a sense of lengthening from your heels towards the balls of your feet, the toes. Anchor that big toe. So within all of that, there'll be little wiggles and wobbles, right? Because balance isn't a constant, right? It's found over and over again. And as we breathe, we move subtly, always from within, because we are such fluid beings. So exhaling, let that wash down and through you. Feel the feet planting, feel the corresponding lift, lying back up, pelvic floor awakening. Little hug of baby. And inhale into your ribcage. Exhaling through the energy travel back down. So let your hands come down and just take a small step forward with the left foot. So we're doing that where we're not turning feet out or back foot out, yeah? We're both roughly staying forward. It doesn't have to be really rigid, yeah, but we're just avoiding the roll 10 knots, right? So we take a small step with the right foot, and you might just play for a few moments and just shifting that weight between the front and the back foot. Yeah. And then planting that front foot, and then feel the planting back down through the back foot. So it feels quite even down through both legs, front and back foot, nicely anchored into the ground. If you feel a bit wobbly in any way, you can always take the feet wider apart this way. Yeah, that makes you feel, you know, especially as you get bigger as well in pregnancy. Sometimes it can feel nice to have a wider base, yeah, from side to side, not front to back. Okay. And then we're just going to give a little wriggle through the shoulders. We're going to let the elbows come up. You could just even have a little stretch for a moment. Up, up, up. Oh, maybe a yawn. Oh, and then just bringing the palms one on top of the other, just to rest in front of the heart. And have a sense of your hips wonderfully square to the front as you begin to move around the waistline and above, right? So we just begin to find that little rotation towards the back leg. What I'm not doing is letting the whole pelvis follow, right? If you start to feel these hips swinging around like so, right? You just want to remind them to stay where they are. So you can always have a little touch in, check how it's feeling. You might turn ever so slightly, that's fine. So you could even have a little play, right, of just moving through this thoracic spine, a little one way, a little the other. And then we could just pause as we look back towards the left. Relax the arms down to come up. Think of your wings, right? Moving from the spine. Palms soft. Look at those fingertips. Lovely. And then we bring that back arm forward. We could just give ourselves a lovely big hug for a moment. And then letting the elbows come up, up, up. Turn towards the front leg. And just reach, reach, reach. Almost like you're creating the same shape as with the legs in your arms. And you can just lift your chin a little as you look towards the back right hand. Wonderful. Again, we don't have to be there very long. You might feel a little wibbly wobbly. So you would just come back, drop the arms, and step the left foot back. So, you know, you come back into standing, right? You might just want to have a little wriggle, shake out any tension or over gripping if you're thinking too hard, etc. And then, you know, in your own time, you will take the opposite foot forward. If I'm doing the right one, I think it's the left foot forward this time. And again, you know, it's quite nice initially just have a little play with that shifting of the weight from the front to the back foot. Right? So we come into that front foot, right? And then you take the heel off for a moment on the back, and then exhale, and let's plant that back heel. Plant back into your front foot and feel a real sense of both feet planting themselves beautifully into the earth. You could bring your hands maybe onto the back of your waistline, just being aware of a tendency here. Right? So let's just slide our hands over the waistline down towards that tailbone.
And then you could even hold one wrist and the other and leave the hands there. So it's like you've got this lovely heavy tail, right? Just as a reminder. And then I'm going to keep my hips to the front. Again, it's round the waistline, around the heart. Just playing, finding that little rotation and looking out over the right. And you can leave the hands where they are, or you can just release them and allow the arms to possibly fly back up. So you're finding that wing-like quality to the arms. Exhale into that back foot, into the back foot. And then maybe the arms can fly up. Back to the center and keep returning towards that front foot now. And then again, you can reach, planting through the feet, reaching through the fingertips. Gazes with that back left hand. Again, only for as long as you feel happy to breathe there, so no more than 2 or 3 breaths. Come back to the center. And then bringing the hands back behind you again, resting as they were. Lovely reminder of that lengthening here through the tailbone, planting through the heels there. And then from the waist up, you're thinking up, up, up through the crown of the head as you just take a little movement forward. So it's not a huge movement. Then you keep planting through the feet, right? And then soften that front knee and let's stand back forward. Okay, bring the hands then to rest in the thighs. And then we can fold the knees and lift the arms up and might rock back a little deeper. So just working a little bit into chair. Again, not for too long to come up. You can just sweep the arms down and push through the feet. And inhaling. So it's best not to hold it for too long. So it's quite nice just to use the breath. Inhaling, arms back and forward. Reach as you take the pelvis back. And on an exhale. Okay. And then from where you are, if you're happy to, start to walk the feet a little wider. Turn the feet out. Not too much, yeah? And just explore a little bit of dropping down into the squat. So we're not going to do it too huge and we're not going to stay there too long. So we'll just link that into our core as well. So as you exhale, push into the feet and gather up into the pelvic floor, into the lower belly. You can play with it, yeah? Just have a little think about, or don't even think about it, just see instinctively how you want to breathe here. And as you come then into the squat, if you can just pause maybe for a breath or so and just soften into that as you inhale. Just allow the muscles to be soft. Exhale, feel the gathering again. Pause to breathe in. So you might again use an exhale to start coming into the squat initially, and then pause to breathe in and let the muscles here all soften. You can try taking your feet just a shade wider. So see how that feels. And then bring your hands here. And you can just give a little drop of that left shoulder to the right. Back to center and drop the right shoulder to the left. And you should just do that a couple of times. You really feel the legs needing to be strong and stable. And then come back to center. Come up. Turn the toes in, heels in, toes in, heels in. Find your way back. Give the legs a little shake. Lovely. And then just come back to giving that whole pelvic area a little bit of a wiggle. And then we'll come down. Sorry. And you'll bolster some cushions. I'm just going to come and sit here towards the front. So hands resting on thighs, you can just rest the eyes for a moment. Check in with your lower back. That's something you could do daily, is get a little bit more in touch with the back of the waistline and any tendency you might have to over-arc here. Right, so giving a little massage of the back of the waistline helps you be more aware of what any habits you may have. And just stroking down then over that lower back to remind ourselves the lower back wants to release, the tail to drop, and that weight land more in our sit bones. And then you could just shift your weight forward a little and back. And just a sense of being more conscious of your sit bones. You might even put your fingertips underneath there and how you're feeling, and just this sense, right, that almost we lean back. That changes things to coming forward. And as soon as we come forward, we can then understand, possibly even onto our fingertips here, possibly the wisdom of, people often talk about UFO, so being in labor, particularly the earlier stages of labor, to be upright, forward leaning, so that you can open up your pelvis. That's knowing that the trap door, the opening part of the pelvis, is the sacral bone, is the back of that pelvis. So, when we come forward here, we can feel how the tailbone is wanting to lift. Hopefully you can feel that, and the sit bones sliding apart. And yet when we come up and even lean back a little, how the tail starts to slide under, and how that closes things up, right? Which is why, we're not best encouraged to be laying back in more active labor. We want to be more upright and potentially mobile, where the energy is there for that, but not too early, right? Okay, lovely. So let's just send more weight into that left leg. So you could unfold the right, and you can just bring that in front of you. That's quite nice. You can just have a look at that foot. You can touch around the ankle. You'll obviously have to have yours a little bit more to the side, just to make space for baby. Right? Quite nice just to touch the feet and just be aware, right? That wonderful heel bone. So when you're standing, more conscious of how you plant through the heel, the outer edge, the base of this big toe, as well as the big toe itself. And this is where we want to activate more lift through the inner arch and ankle. Right? So quite nice just to touch into that while we're there for a moment. Okay, and then we're just going to allow the left arm to reach out to the side. And appreciate and enjoy that expansion. Right? And then begin to let the arm fly up. And you reach up, up, up. So this whole left side beginning to lengthen. You could just take that a little to the right. And the right hand could just come and maybe give a little massage into those left ribs. And you might even be aware as you come to the lower ribs how you really full then out, baby. So just appreciating, how much has to fit in here, how much things are shifted and moved. Okay, and then we're just going to reach forward and just catch hold at the outside. So you can just rest the hand on the outside of that knee. They can almost resist each other, they can push into each other a little to help stabilize you. The right hand can just come behind. It's a small rotation, it's through the chest area. As you just take your gaze to the right, you're just looking over that back shoulder. That's it, lovely. It's not a deep rotation yet. We're working through the bra strap and the upper back, the shoulders, and the neck, which is lovely. And then you can come back. And then you could just take the heels, toes out a little bit more of this right foot. So we're just taking this more out to the side, a little bit more squat-like. So your right arm could just drop down inside that right neck. That's it. And you might just come onto your fingertips. And then sliding your hand around baby here towards that left hip. So just a sense of opening up the front of your body. And then if you're happy to unfold that arm, and again, rather than thinking up with it, see if you can draw it back a little. So just working on softening and opening up the shoulder. Your gaze could come and rest down with the right foot in hand. Let's put a big opening in that left shoulder. And as soon as you wish to, just let the back arm come back. Right arm floats up. You can just let that knee drop in, come back in a few moments to Virasana, just to bring the width across the lower back again for a few moments. You can link the fingers once more, reach up and begin to enjoy just a little bit of drawing that circle. So lifting your rib cage up away from baby. Yeah, just a lovely way of releasing some of the ligaments and muscle and fascia there, yeah, all in this area where you can get really cramped. So quite nice to play with that and to bring a little bit more movement into your buttocks. And then we can let the arms fly down. So now just drop the weight more into the right leg. So you can just come onto the sole of that left foot. So again, you just step it out to the side a little bit more, just make space for baby. And then we're just allowing the right arm to reach away from the heart. Reaching up, up. Dropping and lifting to find as much space as you can. And so finding more space in your body at this time is such a help, and you're so for the baby. Lovely. And again, that left hand, I just want to give a little rub. You'll feel into what's going on here, how full you can be under the rib cage now. Yeah, it's probably just feeling a lot of baby. But again, as you just touch around that area, just aware that all of this nice lifting, just to make a little bit more space and release. And then we let that right arm float down, right? So it can just come and find the outside of the left knee. Again, they can just push into each other a little to help stabilize. Left hand just drops onto the support behind you, and you just allow the left shoulder and the head just to move a little more to the left. You know, just looking softly behind you. And so wherever we arrive, it's a moment to quietly just return to the breath. And whenever we're moving from one place to the next, we do so with the breath. And coming back to the center, and then just heels, toes of that left foot, just to take it out more now. Find that nice squat. Lovely. So settle into that, see how it feels, and then you're just going to bring the left arm more inside. So whether it's the palm or the fingertips, doesn't matter. And then just a lovely sense of opening up around baby here, but also the chest. And then we can just reach back with that right hand, right? And once you've looked back and you've found that lovely extension and reach back, then just drop your gaze towards the right hand. And without seeing it, you could just begin to explore a little movement in that back wrist. You might just want to circle the hand a little, or maybe flex at the wrist. Just make your way back to the center when you wish. If you're comfortable to keep sitting on your support, and you could just come into that left hand and then be a little squat like a few moments with support. So again, just having enough support under your pelvis that you feel you can bring your elbows a little more inside the knees. Coming more forward onto your sit bones, so baby can drop more forward as well. Seeing how that feels. So you can always have more height under your pelvis, yeah, if you're you're not comfortable, you can take the pelvis as high as you want it to be. So this is a lovely position as well, which is naturally going to relax the pelvic floor, allow it a nice simple stretch and find more balance there. Because remember, this is important as the gathering and switching on of those muscles. You know, it's just as important to be able to gently stretch and release and lengthen fascial muscles there, okay, around the pelvic floor area. Because these are the very muscles that we want to soften and stretch as baby is born. Right? And then let's just take ourselves back on there onto your hands and knees, and that just be quite a nice place to stretch out your legs. Again, just remembering when you're stretching your legs that to switch on that core first. So you're just again creating stability in the pelvis, then from which to lengthen the legs out. And so we find that stability, you know? And then when we come back into our hands and knees, we can rediscover a little bit more mobility. So from where you are now, you can let the head just relax. Shoulder blades being gently drawn away from the ears as you plant down through the hands. And just begin to have a little wiggle in the hips. And that might be just a little swishing and swashing of the hips from side to side. Or a little circling of the hips. Feeling where that travels to up your spine. Maybe that you want to find stillness within the pelvis and then open your hands a little wider and play it moving a little bit more around the ribs area. So you can play it lowering the rib cage and lifting it, swaying it out to the side. So this sense of just moving the ribs around this upper spine. But basically, any little movements you want to play with. So you might be wriggling through the shoulders, wriggling into the hips. Just move where you feel the body wants to take you. So some time in all fours daily would be a great idea. And I'd always start properly with some just nice, playful, curious wriggles. So allowing the breath, sense of ease as it washes in and out. Oh. And of course, then rolling through each and every vertebrae of the spine. Would be a better way of thinking of it than cat-cow. So we just slow the process down, but in a more even way, moving through sacral to lumbar to thoracic to cervical. There's 4 different areas of the spine, each is important. Rolling from tail up back to the crown of your head, vertebrae by vertebrae, avoiding or resisting any sense that the body just wants to collapse around the waistline. Understandably so as well, on top of maybe being a little freer in that area. You know, the weight of baby, just wanting to pull you there. But remember the beauties of this pose also for preparing you for labor and birth, as in, you know, this is a wonderful place to encourage your baby into an optimum position, because baby here, the spine will be encouraged to fall and rest, so they're back into your belly, right? Which is wonderful, and it relieves the back, you know, from that weight. Also, all fours in labor is a wonderful position to come into, especially when we let the head drop and relax. Yeah? A wonderful place to look more inwardly. You know, our gaze naturally finds baby when we're here with a heavy head. Right? We can shift and we can move. And if we feel we want to be there for a length of time, that's when the birth ball comes in, or a chair with a big pile of cushions on top of it. So your upper body is supported, yeah? Where you're able to still move and receive all the benefits of
creating your own safe little space. It's private. Where baby's back is resting into your belly. And then when you come upright, right? So maybe rest for a few moments sitting on your ball or just sitting down here. There's just that sense here, and now baby is able to come even more snugly into the pelvis. Right? So all you can do in this latter part of pregnancy now to facilitate baby into a good position is going to become more and more, going to come more and more to the fore, right? You've still got a month or so before you really need to focus on that, but you can still be preparing your body now, right? For being familiar with your posture or positions that are helping you to encourage baby into those positions, as well as helping you feel more comfortable, yeah? And becoming familiar with positions that are good in pregnancy, right? I mean in labor, yeah, in labor. So, we don't want to come into all fours for the first time in labor. You wouldn't be comfortable, and you want to know how to get comfy there. So again, sometimes at home, if you haven't got a ball yet, maybe get yourself one. And then do all fours with your upper body just resting over there. You could even play with your couch. You could have your forearms and head on the couch while you're kneeling. And that would be a nice support in your fours. So I would really explore your home. Even the couch could be used for a downward dog. Yeah. But rather than your hands on the ground, you can have your forearms on the couch. And you can play with it there with knees bent. And that will still give a lovely sense of just letting all of these muscles here that support the uterus for them to even out and have a nice release. So, because this is ideally, if you are going to go into labor spontaneously, it's hopefully going to be at home. And so then you want to know that this is a space you know well. And you can get comfortable in. So, it's interesting just having a look at your space now and seeing that couch, which is quite a nice height, and you've got a table there, and there's probably chairs to hand.